You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Adler and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is the 600th episode of the Cantina Cast, a very large number, and quite honestly, the show has probably gone on a little too long. But no, all joking aside, this is a great momentous occasion, honestly, in the show. 600 is, again, a big number, and, if you've ever listened to the show, you've heard me say this many times. The actual number is probably, I'm going to guess, probably over 1,000 once you add in like our Patreon shows and everything else. And so while it kind of takes away from the impact of like 600, nonetheless, 600 is a very nice whole number, divisible by 2, divisible by 3. And I'm just thrilled that we get to do the Andor Season 2 trailer breakdown on the 600 episode. And to celebrate the 600 episode, as well as the Season 2 trailer, is Jonesy. Jonesy, welcome to the big show, the big birthday party today. How are you?
Yeah, happy birthday. Actually, it's funny. I thought you were Mike Rondo for a moment because I mentioned it to Mike yesterday. I was like, hey, we're hitting 600. Actually, I know what the real number is too, by the way.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's not 1,000, but it's still pretty high.
Pretty high.
But I was like, and before you tell me the show has gone on for too long, just sit back and enjoy that it's still there. What he reminded me was that when Mike left the show, was episode 230.
Oh, wow.
It just shows you how many shows we have done since then. So the real number is around, I believe, 750. I think we have about 150 or so Patreon shows and other things that have kind of been scattered in. It might be a few more than that, but it's around 750 total, which still is kind of mind-boggling for as long as this is going on. And then you and I think I've done 460 something shows, and you've probably done closer to 500. So, I mean, it's, if not more than that. So it's incredible, like how many you and I have done. It doesn't feel like we've been doing this for as long as we have now.
Yeah. Wow. I was way off. I thought it was over 1,000, but no, it's still 750. That's quite a big number. I mean, even in comic book terms, right? 600 is like, all right, come on, just do a reboot or start doing a renumbering at that point.
Well, if it was a comic book, we'd have to have legacy numbering though. We'll start over from one and then we'll have legacy numbers too, like they do in Spider-Man and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
it's exciting, man.
It is. It really is. And thank you to everybody that supports the show, whether you listen, you watch, a Patreon member, you've said hello to us at any number of places that we've been in, whether it's Celebration or other stuff that we've done. Just thank you to everybody for the support and for all of the encouragement to keep us going, because it's kind of difficult to get in, week out and do something like this. But thankfully, it's something that we both love. And so that does make it a little bit easier to do. So.
It's funny, as much work as kind of goes into it and after the show and everything, like when we're in the moment and doing this, and especially since we started doing the live stream and having people chat with us, it really does kind of make it all worth it. So, I just echo what you said. Thank you so much to all the people who keep coming and listening to us and interacting with us and all the different ways. It certainly makes this really a lot of fun for us. So thank you all for keeping us around.
Yeah. And on that note, why don't we say thank you to our Patreon members, especially?
Yeah, special thanks to all of our Patreon members, but especially our now part of the tribe members: Alex, Raphael, Danny, Mike, Lauren, Dante, Riz, Jackson, Sharkman, Dan, Daz, Uncle Leon, Josh, Jacob, Reader Reborn, and I've got a bad feeling. And of course, our Delusions, Lagrange members. Now this is Rod Racing, CJ, Steve, and Rob. Lauren actually laughed when I did that, by the way. You just stare at me blankly.
Oh, so, yeah, I'm like, whatever. It's just Jonesy. He does that.
Right. This is why we need Lauren on the show more often.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So huge thanks to all of our Patreon members. And speaking of Lauren and I did a show a couple weeks ago for bringing Jedi Novel Archive live to the mainstream. So hope everyone goes out there and checks it out. We did Pursuit of Peace, which is one of the short stories from the Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark, which was a companion to the Clone Wars episodes back in like season 3, back in 2010. So great conversation, a lot of Mask of Fear references. And actually what's really funny is the official trailer for Andor has a lot of those same vibes, man, from Mask of Fear. I'm almost all the way through the audiobook for Mask of Fear, and man, the tone and everything for it is just such a perfect fit with Andor. If you like Andor, please go check out that book. Borrow it from the library, buy it, get it on Kindle, whatever it is that works best for you. But highly recommend it. It's very dense and very kind of political in nature, but if you like Andor, I think Mask of Fear is right up your alley.
Yeah, for sure. I actually got in the Goldsboro version of that, and it's downstairs. So I'm not going to go run down there and grab it. I want to show it off, but it's pretty impressive.
Well, I've seen the leak. The Inkstone had published what they're doing for Wayseeker, which we've got the advanced copy right now. But when they do the physical and kind of what they're doing with the painted edges, the gilded pages, all of that stuff is pretty impressive. They're starting to get really intricate on this stuff. I like it. I think it's cool and different.
It seems like they kind of up it every few, couple books. They up the ante just a little bit more. So
yeah. So, hey, one last thing before we get started here. We announced this last time as well. We did start memberships here on YouTube. So if you're interested, if you like a badge and some custom emojis, it's just $1 if you want to support the show. We invite you to do that. You can just hit the little join button down there underneath the video if you're so inclined. If not, no big deal. We just want to give you an opportunity to kind of show your Cantina Cast pride if you want on the channel while you're in live stream, and it helps support the show. So we appreciate that. But again, thank you everyone for just being here and tuning in, even if you're just kind of stopping by. We certainly appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Always appreciate the drive-bys too. So
yeah.
Okay,
but certainly like and subscribe. I mean, we appreciate that too.
Yeah, like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, all the stuff.
All the pimp your show stuff.
Yeah.
Let's do this, man.
All right. Well, let's talk about the trailer. So give me your initial impressions. We're going to actually step through the trailer. Traditionally, we go frame by frame and look at everything and speculate recklessly on just about everything. But I guess as you were watching this, I mean, it was the trailer we suspected we were going to get, right? An official trailer with like real, quote, real Star Wars music, very dramatic, different tone, maybe a different audience that they were targeting in some regards, in some ways. But I guess kind of initial impressions as you were watching this the first time through.
I like the way they're structuring these trailers. It's just really cool. Like when you start to see some of the scenes on whatever planet they're on with Brazos and with Bix and company.
Yeah.
And they're laughing and they're smiling. You almost feel like the sense of relief, and you just know it's all going to come crashing down, right?
Yeah.
Especially as we start to escalate through the trailer. It's like the trailer itself is this journey and this story all on its own. And I just love how they're doing it. And they're not really getting rich into the details necessarily, but they give you that sense of, man, that tension keeps building. They've done this a couple of different times with the teasers as well as the season 1 recap. They just kind of build that anxiety, that tension as they go through it. And I think these are just a lot of fun. I mean, they're just really good trailers, I think, and just in general. And it's really difficult to, not be excited about it, and I'm really happy that we're getting good quality trailers like this. And again, they are more traditional in the fact that, like you said, we're getting the more cinematic type of experience, the music. What we had with the teaser, was just to kind of get us amped up and kind of get us reintroduced and get us energized for it. And now we're kind of getting into the meat, right, about what we can expect. The table stakes are no longer good enough for Andor and for Luthen and Mon Mothma and company. And seeing the sacrifices that they're going to have to make, and they start to feel what it's going to take to move the rebellion forward, it's just bringing me a lot of joy at this point. So I'm really excited about this series, and these trailers are really doing it for me. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's, I'm already hyped up as it is, right? I mean, after we've had the first two, I mean, my gosh, it was, fandemonium over here. On top of that, like you said, Mask of Fear is out. Great read. That gets you in the mood. I'm due for a rewatch, which I plan on doing before season 2 kicks off. So I'm really I want to dive into that. But again, the one thing that just stuck out to me as I'm watching this trailer, I guess, is that production quality. It was, they almost doubled down in terms of like just how much quality you could see on screen with this trailer compared to some of the other stuff that was kind of zippy and you really didn't have the context. And that was, very evident in this trailer. Just again, all the framing and the cinematography and how much they've spent on this just came, full front and center, literally. On top of that, a lot of the pieces that we've been talking about and speculating about ever since almost 2 years or about a year and a half ago now, when we first got that trailer that came out at Celebration, that was for Celebration Eyes only, that we did break down here for Patreon members. Ever since that came out, there were so many, we had a lot of questions, and we've been speculating a lot on what possibly could be happening and all that. And so it was finally nice to see this trailer, just the way it was stitched together. And there was you could see how a lot of this stuff was starting to kind of take form and take shape. I do wonder though, too, as I was watching it, whether or not we are just seeing only like maybe to the first 2, 3. I don't know that we're seeing the first 4 years. I wonder if they're keeping that 4th year under wraps. Maybe the scene with like Saul Guerrero at the very end, where he's sitting there staring at the Dauntless or whatever the Star Destroyer is over Jeddah City. Maybe that's season 4. But it does feel like this was very heavy in the first 2-3 seasons, which is typically the case. We usually don't get, a bunch of stuff from the 4th season or the final episodes, if you will. I shouldn't say seasons. You know what I'm saying? Like the episodes is what I want, is really what I meant. But
maybe the Death Star scenes as well might be from that last
as it's completing. Yeah. So yeah, very exciting. This trailer has gotten millions of hits now, views just across everything else. And so the hype is pretty palpable. I don't know how well this is going to do. I think I still have those questions about what, is this going to bring in new people? The numbers will eventually come out at some point, but it's not going to stop me from watching this because I'm pretty excited about it.
Absolutely.
Hey, Alex, I just want to give a shout out. Alex just became a YouTube member. So thank you, Alex, for joining at the channel memberships. That's really nice of you. So
that's cool. Shows up as green. Yeah.
Yeah. He gets a special color.
Yeah, I'm guessing that little icon is probably the custom one. It just doesn't come through on StreamYard. But
yeah, that's probably the case too. So, all right.
Oh, and hey, thanks to Imperial Academy or Imperial Activity, who apparently is Skywalker's Academy's brother. So very cool. Bringing the family in. Appreciate that.
Yeah, bringing the family in. That's right. Hey, let's do this. Let's bring up the trailer and let's start talking about it. And it opens up with this voiceover from Andor saying, I came with you to be part of something. I think it's pretty obvious that he's talking to Luthen. He did at the very end of season 1. He basically said, I'm all yours, essentially, make me as you will kind of thing. So referencing that last season, we talked a little bit about this in the other trailer about what this potential building could possibly be. It does look very clean, very sterile. I mean, I think we threw out Kaminoan, but it doesn't look like Kaminoan, craftsmanship or not craftsmanship. What's the word I'm looking for? Architecture.
Yeah, like design architecture, right?
Yeah. But he does. This is interesting because we only saw from the back. As he turns around here, though, he's got this kind of menacing look on his face as well.
Yeah, he's got a scowl.
Yeah. So not sure what's going on here. It's still a little too early to say, but definitely looks angry. Almost wonder if he should be there also. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious what he's staring back at. And again, he's probably leaving something and just kind of checking behind him. But yeah, I don't know what. I'm curious who he's kind of walking from. And again, he's got this weird kind of beige brown, get up on it. We've seen this in some of the other promotional material, so this is not necessarily new, but got some satchel around him as well.
Yeah. Then we come up to the Gorman Massacre, which I think it was on the Patreon episode or something. Yeah. We finally we kind of, I guess, maybe broke the news because I think it was that day or just before that they had finally come out and said this was the Gorman Massacre. So we can see it right here. We can see the mountains in the background. We're going to get a better picture of Gorman here just a little bit. But yeah, this is some kind of a protest. This is what really kind of kicks the rebellion off in so many ways. It is really what pushes Mon Mothma over the edge to call out Emperor Palpatine and start not only the rebellion, but coalescing the rebellion, all these different factions and sects and all that stuff. And that's all going to culminate by the time we get into Star Wars Rebels, where she's now a fugitive on the run and she's taken in by the rebels and they head off to Dantooine. So we're going to get a number of these shots here. But yeah, it looks like the stormtroopers are about to enter the crowd and nothing good's going to come from that because, Saw Gerrera's behind probably all of this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when everything's about to fall apart, or really everything's about to explode in this moment.
Yeah.
This scene in this sequence is going to be so intense. I mean, you talked about the scale of Andor and kind of what we're seeing. We talked about it on the Patreon show as well. Everything just feels so huge. And I believe Genevieve O'Reilly also talked about that. Everything just feels so huge and everything is so real. And I think the way that they're going to do this with Tony Gilroy, I could just imagine it's just going to be this escalation of tension as we go through it. And by the time the lid blows off this thing, it's going to be, it's going to be an epic slaughter, unfortunately, but in kind of the best storytelling type of way. And I'm really excited. And I hope this scene, like this whole sequence, I really hope it delivers, but I have a feeling it will. Because I mean, just seeing the different scenes that we have, it just seems like it's going to continue just to increase in the intensity as we go through the episodes.
Right. I got a question for you. So, we hear massacre being used in this term. Yeah. Do you think we're going to cross any kind of lines in terms of like the violence that we see in Star Wars, compared to other things? And would it be okay given, I guess, the adult, I don't know, theme or I guess the adult appeal aesthetic that we get from something like Andor?
This show is, I think, like a TV-14 or something like that, PG-13, TV-14, something in that neighborhood. So I don't think it'll cross any lines, but I think it's going to be violent. I mean, this is what the rebellion and the Empire and Saw Gerrera's forces. This is the reality of the situation, right? This is the intensity of it. We see it in Alexander Freed's book as well. We start to push these boundaries, I think, and almost in surprising ways of the things that we're talking about and the sheer violence of it, but also the moral conflict that goes with it, I think, is the more important aspect of that. And that's why I'm really interested, like when we get to the Mon Mothma scene here soon, is going to be, where is that line as you get more fed up with what's going on and you start to get to that breaking point, which we know they're all right on the cusp of, like, where is the line that you draw when it comes to how far you'll go or what you'll tolerate, what you'll accept? And I think from the Empire standpoint, we really do need to, while we've kind of seen the Imperial brutality over time, I think Tony Gilroy is not afraid to show us that brutality. And I think it's really important to an extent to do that. And I think with the tone that they've set from season one and what we're anticipating for season two, I think that it should continue. And I think while you can do it tastefully, I think there's a certain level of authenticity that needs to be maintained where you need it to be raw, gritty, and uncomfortable in many ways, to where it's going to challenge you. Was this too much for us? And it's going to hopefully be more of a healthy debate. But at the end of the day, we come back to it and say, yeah, I think it was really relevant for us to see that level of just sheer brutality and slaughter in some cases. This is what the people no longer want to push back and no longer want to tolerate. And the Empire is just fed up, and we're going to take our mask off now and just kind of show you what we're really, what we're really all about.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I don't think any lines will be crossed. I saw some debate about this online, and I'm not really ready to venture to say that he's going to do that. I think, to your point, he's going to be respectful. He's going to certainly probably toe the line. I mean, Star Wars is violent. I mean, we had Anakin completely dismembered and burned alive, right? There were some moments in Book of Boba Fett when we had the Robert Rodriguez's, some of his action sequences were kind of brutal and violent. Even in Mando, there were some things that were kind of like, whoa, right? I mean, they cut away from some of the violence. And so it's there, and it happens without showing it. And I think we'll probably get some of that here. But I do expect Tony Gilroy to maybe just push that a little bit more, really kind of ride that line of TV-14, which I think is appropriate. Like, I'm not saying that would be a bad thing at all. We want to have the impact that we know it's going to have and should have, given that this is what codifies the rebellion in a lot of ways. So
this is not Skeleton Crew, right?
I mean, for sure.
It's designed for a different audience. And again, we know that Anakin killed children, of course, right? We did it off scene, but
off camera, right?
Off camera, yeah. But again, we saw Bix getting tortured. So I think we've already ventured into that space, and to see the Empire mowing down people. And again, you don't have to get graphic about it, right? Or gory. Right. We're not going to go Game of Thrones style or The Witcher or anything to that extreme. So I think you can still do it, get your point across, and maintain that grit and that rawness of it without getting gory, right? That would be too much, and I don't think that's going to be the thing. Yeah,
no, I agree. Skywalker's Academy chimed in, by the way. So if you have comments, whatever, throw them up. I'll try to get to some of them here. But he says probably no worse than Marva's Uprising, right? So Rick's Road, pretty violent. I suspect it'll maybe be a little bit more violent than that, given there's going to be a lot of people here that die, unfortunately. So we'll see how that goes. Jorge Castro says lots of violent killings in the Clone Wars animated series. That's very true. There are people that don't live and don't make it out of there, even though that was kind of aimed towards younger audiences. All right.
Wars is kind of in the title. Yeah.
It is. It's simple. Yeah. But okay, so good discussion. I want to just kind of break that seal as we go forward here. You got the klaxon and the red lights flaring the entire time the klaxon's going on, which is just reminiscent of the Rogue One trailers that we got and some of the other stuff that we've had in the past. We kind of get this aerial shot here of Gorman. It's got a train. It looks like a tram that goes around. I don't know if you see that down there.
Yeah, I like that. Kind
of goes around the perimeter of this, I don't know, pentagram. I don't know how many sides that is or whatever, but yeah. So I assume this is Gorman in between the mountains there.
Yep.
You got this. This is Deidre Morrow. I mean, it looks like Deidre Morrow.
Yeah,
it's hard to. Her. Yeah, it's definitely her. Either she's in some kind of maybe her own. This is where she lives, her quarters, imperial quarters of sorts. I assume this is on Coruscant, given the number of buildings there in the background. But yeah, I don't know. Deidre's a very interesting character. Like, we haven't really seen a whole lot of her. I mean, we've only seen bits and pieces, but in this trailer in particular, she does seem at odds with what's going on And I do wonder now, I walked away from this trailer going, holy crap, I don't know if she's going to stay. I'm not saying she's going to flip sides and she's going to join the rebellion, but I don't think that she's going to walk out of here with the same kind of view of the Empire as maybe as she wanted. She feels like she is someone that wants, law and order and structure, and the more power that the Empire starts to get, the more they kind of drift away from that in a lot of ways. And I think that's going to be at odds with her personally. But again, that's just my take based on what I was seeing in this trailer, especially when she feels, later on we get that kind of anxiety, panic attack, ripping at the collar scene. Did you get that sense here? Do you think she's, or do you feel like she's at odds at all, or what could possibly be, contributing to that?
When we left her at this end of season 1, she was really rattled and shaken. And again, I think when you make the comparison of like Cyril Karn and her, you don't feel like that same level of conviction is still there when we left her in season 1. Now, granted, it is there throughout most of season 1, but that however she felt at the very end of it, though, makes you wonder if there's something there. Now, what would have changed her opinion of the Empire versus rebellion, though, or this fledgling uprising, if it's not maybe necessarily codified as a rebellion yet? That would be a little bit of a jump. There has to be a little bit more for her to actually change her opinion on the Empire, because I think she's still raised in this environment where she feels like they're in the right. They're the ones bringing law and order. They're not necessarily the ones sowing all of the chaos and uprising and destruction and terrorism, right? So I think it would be a bit of a stretch for her to jump sides unless she's continually exposed to something. But again, like we see here, she's almost in the White Tower, right?
Yeah, right.
And kind of above it all, and not necessarily on the ground. And the scene later is interesting because I'm trying to make sense of it, because I'm almost like, are we going to get a cameo from a certain person who likes to choke people, and that type of thing of is that something that's going to come into play or not? But with her, I don't know. It would be quite the leap to be able to change her perspective where she feels like the Empire is wrong. And I don't think even season 1 at the end of it, while that would have shaken her, I don't think that would tell her that they were wrong. If anything, she might double down. But again, the tension with Cyril Karn and wherever that's going is going to be interesting to see that, kind of that play off between the two of them, and who has the stronger conviction, and do we see one start to waver?
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of share my thoughts on that a little bit later too. So when we get to that scene, I've got some thoughts, some more additional thoughts on what potentially could be happening there as well. But
we've definitely seen her have one panic attack. So,
Yeah. Right. What's another here?
Yeah.
All right. We go to what I assume this is Andor. Well, I know this is Andor, but Andor talking to, I assume this is Bix. It's hard to tell. Her hair looks like she's got it back in a bun. Maybe, maybe not. He's definitely in this flight suit, though. This flight suit, we see this throughout. It's very prominent. This is the same one that he gets when he's in that tie. What is it? Is it Adventure?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a prototype, it looks like. But anyways, same kind of suit here. And this is where he says the Empire cannot win. So not sure who he's exactly. I mean, he's probably just talking to Bix. The reason I question whether or not it's Bix is because she seems very determined to say, I mean, she's of that same opinion. So why would he be in her face like that, saying the Empire can't win? She, of all people, knows and feels like the Empire can't win. So
yeah, and the face doesn't quite seem. Adria Arjona has kind of a slender and longer face, so a little bit tough to tell from the back. But again, if they're trying to steal the tie, and maybe there's some doubt, maybe the odds are starting to stack against, then maybe Andor's got to. Again, this is kind of what Luton's been telling her too. He's got to be able to lead and motivate people to say, no, this is what we need in order to win. We can't let them win. We have to take these chances. And it's just like what Jen Erso was saying in Rogue One. So I could see where some of that starts to take shape, and he has to reiterate that to kind of whomever he's around, right? Whether it's, Melshi or whomever else, right? Or Bix, it's got to be something to inspire that person to be able to continue going when the odds are starting to be stacked against you.
Yep. Okay. We then go over to the Kansas City, or I believe this is Ganji Moon or Gangi Moon. I don't remember how Andor's pronounced it, but at the very end of season 1, he tells everybody to go somewhere that's pretty close to where they were, and I assume this is where they're at, right? He said it was a moon, but we've seen moons with other kind of habitats, not like our moon. So, but you got Brasso there on the ground. We suspected this was the case, that the Empire finally caught up with this group. what was really kind of a revelation for me was the number of people that we saw here
Yeah.
in this one, right? So up until this point, we had only seen Bix. We had that one scene where Andor was hugging Bix. We had the one scene where we saw one kid running off into the fields, and we had Brasso, I think, at one point. But it looks like everybody is here. Like everyone is come from Ferrix. This is some kind of a sanctuary that they've set up, because not only do we see them, but later on we see Williman, which I think it looks like Williman. It looks like he's a little bit older now, which is the kid that was in there, and a number of other characters. But it is kind of cool that they've decided to kind of go here, lay low, be farmers or pilgrims or whatever it is that they're doing here. But yeah, it was just a matter of time, I think, before the Empire caught up with them.
Yeah, it's almost like they've found a new home in a kind of a refugee type of status. But it's cool that they, like you said, kind of cool they did it as a group, not only just, Brasso and Bix and Williman, but, others as well. I think that's pretty neat. And these sequences, usually these slower parts of the story are sometimes can weigh things down. But with what they showed us in the trailer, I'm actually really excited about this, because I think it's going to, that sense of foreboding is going to creep in continuously each time we see these scenes, each time we see them talk about the future, each time we see them laugh or smile or feel like, hey, we really can survive and kind of escape the horrors of our past and whatever the future might end. There's hope, right?
Right.
And then they have to make a choice though when things happen and they go sideways like we see here, and it really informs their characters and sends them on a different path.
Yeah, no volume is being used here either, right? This is on location somewhere. It's kind of cool. The silos, those grain silos, are kind of like hovering, floating in the background there too.
It is really cool. Yeah, it's cool. If you've ever been to the to the Midwest and you've seen these big granaries and the different silos, either whether they're rice or grain or whatever, to see a Star Wars rendition of them is actually kind of
cool.
neat. It's very grounded in our world. I think this is what the visionary side of Tony Gilroy really does, is he takes things, and I know some people complain about this, but I think the way that he does it is a great blend, especially in these rural type of areas, of taking things that we know and are part of our kind of our lexicon and things that we've grown up with, of kind of Americana in some ways, and apply them to Star Wars in a very tangible, real way that gets the point across without it feeling too vested in our world, as compared with like Skeleton Crew with the neighborhoods.
Yeah,
he seems to find kind of a slightly better balance. It seems like at times where it's not so stark of a bringing it back to the things that we're used to in real life compared to our favorite franchise here.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of an interesting way. It'll be interesting to see how people feel about that too, and how they compare that with like Skeleton Crew, I think.
Now, this is the shot that we talked about earlier with Saw Gerrera. That's Dauntless there in the background. This is on Jeddah City for sure.
I'm excited to go back to Jeddah with Saw.
Yeah. Think we're going to get Bor Gullet?
I hope so, because I just want to hear him say, Bor Gullet!
I hope we do too. Like I would expect at this
We're
point
not getting
he
an
probably
origin
does have,
story, though. Sorry.
What's that?
No origin story for Bor Gullet.
No,
though.
I don't want an origin. I don't need to know how they met or any of that stuff.
I don't believe you when you say that, but I'm going to agree with you.
I'd like to read about it. I don't know that I need to see it. But yeah, I will definitely be checking out the Wookiee entry if there is a origin story for Saw Gerrera and Bor Gullet. But he's looking pretty good there. One of a couple different scenes that we get here from Mon Mothma. Of course, she's in the Senate. I assume you can see the anxiety on her face. It looks like this is just moments before she's going to deliver the infamous, soon-to-be infamous speech where she calls out the Emperor, and later on she calls it the monster. When you think about Tony Gilroy's writing and just some of the speeches that we've gotten already, it's just like I've got chills just thinking about Genevieve O'Reilly delivering the speech like this. So I cannot wait. For this particular speech in this scene.
It's going to be so good.
Yeah. So we'll come back to her in just a second, but she does not look happy at all, of course. This one, I cannot put my finger on what is going on here. I mean, there's a jungle. You've got boots, groups that are running. I assume no, that's not. I was gonna say one of these is Andor. Later on, we see I think what are these same people kind of carrying Andor, either as a prisoner or maybe he's injured. We'll talk about that, debate about it in just a second. But I don't understand why this planet exists. A little bit later, again, there's also what looks to be the TIE Avenger kind of off to the side, maybe. So
Yeah.
we'll come back to in a second. Boots in the ground, boots running. More on in a little bit here.
Certainly look like rebels. Yeah, more than anything else, right?
They do look like rebels. I mean, they're getting shot at a little bit later too, but it's just kind
It's
of
a good
interesting.
indicator. Yeah.
Yeah, right. If they're getting shot, it's usually rebels. I forgot to mention, Luthen says it's a different kind of mission. Just before that, right over it. I do wonder when I heard that too. I'm thinking, oh, he must be debriefing Andor on like, hey, people are going to die, right? Like this, it feels like Luthen is either orchestrating this, or he knows that, or he's in cahoots with Saw Gerrera, or he's hired Saw Gerrera and knows that they're going to go just that step further to kind of really kick things off, right? Scramble, break a few eggs to make an omelet type thing. But I think that is going to kind of really put Andor on his heels a little bit. Now, I think eventually that's probably going to normalize for him, given, the greater goal and the greater good involved in destroying the Death Star, or whatever the weapon is that he's after, and knowing that he needs to take down the Empire at some point. I think that's going to harden him, but I think this is going to be a shock and a surprise for him to have been part of that Gorman massacre, knowing that, Luthen is kind of behind it and orchestrating it.
It would be something if Andor was the one who fired the first shot that set the massacre in motion.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that when Luthen says those types of words, and we know the influence of Saw, and I'm really interested to see more scenes of Saw and Luthen together. I'm hoping we get that. But I think with this situation that they're creating this environment to an extent, and they are there to create the spark that will actually ignite it, so to speak, to borrow some words from Poe and Holdo and company.
Right.
But I think it would be interesting, and again, that moral ambiguity of how do you feel when the good guys, or the ones fighting for justice, are the ones who initiate what is effectively a terrorist type of attack, and initiate it, and then the response is overwhelmingly over the top, right?
Yeah.
So what's the debate that feels like? And I think Tony Gilroy is one of those people who's not afraid to show that on screen. And we already know Andor has, his moral compass is a little bit skewed at times, right? We saw this in Rogue One, and a lot of debate there about, is it right for a Rebel Alliance person to shoot someone in the back, right? So we know it's there, and it should be shown again here as well. It should be that consistency. And how do we feel about that? What kind of conversation is this, Trey? I think would be fascinating to have.
Yeah. We'll come back to that too in just a second. More on that, because this kind of just thematically plays out through all of this trailer. I assume this is Vel and Cinta. That looks like Vel, or maybe it's Clea. I don't know.
I couldn't
That's
really
Cinta,
tell.
though.
Yeah, it does look like Cinta, which I'm assuming they got back together at some point here, because we know
it looks like Vel to me. I'm going to call it Vel and Cinta, but this does look like they're kind of scoping the area. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention one thing. You mentioned Andor taking the first shot. From the earlier trailers, it looks like they were coming in with bags of things, and so maybe there's weapons in there, but that could also be explosions or bombs explosives. Explosions. Jeez.
And we see him up in the room. And we see him up in the room with the rifle, right? And
yes,
not necessarily
he's got that sniper rifle.
Yeah, I don't know if it was quite sniperish, but it could be used as one. And at the very least, again, who's going to be the one to actually light the match?
Yeah, but I do love the idea. Like, that would be kind of crazy if he was the one that kind of started it all. All right. Well, anyways, this looks like that same city that we saw that tractor, whatever it was, that was pulling all that stuff that crashed into the ground during the little teaser there. We've got Andor.
I love this exchange between them.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, he says, and if it goes up in flames. He's wearing his black kind of debonair outfit, so I assume this is just before he heads out to Gorman to start all that, kind of getting that debrief with Luthen. And Luthen's response is, it will burn very brightly. Yeah. Of course, he delivers it much better than that. But yeah, I mean, they're metaphorically talking about the rebellion and the fire that's ignited, that you just kind of mentioned a little bit ago, about the people rising up, that full rebellion coming together.
How does that make you feel? I mean, when you hear words like that, it'll burn brightly. I mean, there's a certain, like, if you're in the position of Luthen or Andor, you have to believe that no matter what happens, whether you live or die, it sets things in motion. But if you were in that position, how would you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of weight on my shoulders for sure.
Yeah.
I almost took this when I first heard it. I was like, wow, that's kind of cold for him to say that, given how Andor went out. Right, he goes out with
very bright
explosion
light,
burning very brightly. Right, so I don't know. Maybe there's some foreshadowing there or not, but I know exactly what he was talking about, and certainly what you meant. But yeah, that's this guy who really was just trying to clear his name is now caught up way too deep into all of this at this point.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see something a little different from Luthen, is that that acceptance of his mortality and that his time is becoming shorter and shorter. You definitely start to sense a shift in that character. We saw it at the end of season 1, but in these teasers and the trailers, you start to notice that becoming a little more apparent. That weight on him seems to be growing heavier, and again, the chances he's willing to take are probably going to be more extreme. So it'll be very interesting to see how his demeanor continues throughout these few years of this season 2.
I think he kind of laid it all out when he gave his speech, right? That infamous speech. He told us everything that he was going through and everything that he was feeling. And I think we're going to see a lot of that play out in real time throughout this second season here.
Yeah, I'm excited when we get to our final hype show. Of course, we'll kind of do the Death Watch, which is probably going to be a pretty long list. But
right.
It'll be interesting when certain characters might start to fade away,
This is a continuation of the shot that we've got in the teaser where he's kind of spinning around, which is always a good trick.
I love these dolly shots from behind, just following them into the chaos and the flashing red.
Lights.
Yeah, it's just, this is the TIE Avenger scene, of course, when they're trying to go and stop it, but just really cool. I love it when we kind of trail a small force of soldiers in.
What I can't tell is whether or not he's spinning still up top above them, or if you look to the left there's all the kind of dust and debris. I'm wondering if this is where we see later where he kind of blows out.
I think
fires right out of the side there.
Kind of looks like the hole's already been blown. He's probably already jetted, is my guess. Because it looks like he has already done some pretty serious damage. And you can see there's nothing up top as they kind of walk in the room. But again, tough to tell.
I wonder why he didn't go out the main entrance, unless they had like shields up or something.
Less dramatic.
maybe. Or he's a terrible pilot.
To make a point. Well, he's probably not a great pilot either.
Yeah, that's probably it. I have a theory as far as why that happens at the very, very last scene. But okay. We're back on Ganji Moon, whatever it was called here. There's B2. You can see him down there.
Yeah, there's B2. Yeah, he's over on the right side.
He's down there with some other droid buddies. You got this yellow droid. You got this green and white one with a bunch of arms. Looks like some kind of irrigation droid of sorts.
He made friends, but yeah, everyone's out like it's like the family picnic or something, or everybody's at lunch from working in the fields.
Yeah, working in the fields.
Like this great community, very inspired by days back in like the 20s and 30s and before, right before the serious revolution and stuff like that.
Where everybody goes to work and goes to lunch at the same time, and everybody gets off at 5 p.m. or whatever it is. You've got
you're working the fields a little later than that, my friend.
Well, yeah. Until the sun goes down anyways.
Right.
There's also an animal back here. Looks like a big old longhorn. So that's kind of cool. All right. This is what you were talking about earlier. You got Bix smiling. I haven't seen that in a while. That's kind of cool. Brasso's smiling.
Yeah, sitting across the table from Brasso.
Yeah, everybody's happy. It's not going to last long, guys. Sorry to break it to you. Bix says this is where she first starts she says, I want to win. She looks very serious. I think I mentioned this again. It was probably during the Patreon episode, but I do have a suspicion that Bix is really going to be different. Like we're going to get a very darker Bix, a more traumatized Bix, given what she went through. And I have my suspicions that I don't know that she's going to really be okay. I don't think she's going to take the same side as Andor, at least, morally. I think she's going to probably lean more on the Saw Gerrera of like, kill them all, let God let the Force sort them out later kind of thing. It just feels like she's really crossed that line for me. And again, that's just pure speculation and what I'm kind of picking up from the trailer. But when she was saying this line in particular, when she says, I want to win at any cost to finish the line, that seems extreme, right? That seems like at any cost, that means, okay, I'm fine with innocent people's lives, innocent people dying and the loss of life, so long as it serves that greater purpose of taking down the Empire.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I'm curious to see. Of course, we want her to align more with Andor, I think, just from a relationship standpoint. And again, we see the closeness of them here in a moment as well. But I think some of my interpretation of the scene is that she's accepted that even if it costs her life, she's willing to sacrifice that because what is going on can't stand. They're not alone in what happened on Ferrix. They're not alone with what's happened on this other planet that they found refuge on. You know, the Empire is just always going to keep coming. They're everywhere, and their influence is never ending and it's far reaching. And so it's a realization that, you know, if you're going to commit, if you're going to fight, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything against this, you know, tyrannical empire and this force that just seems unbeatable. And you've got to be willing to make the ultimate, you know, sacrifice, and you'll be willing to give it all because I think it's the only way you're going to be able to do it against a force this big and inspire others in the process. And again, to your point, I don't know that she's necessarily in it to inspire others and inspire rebellion. She might just be wanting to just, you know, strike them back and take back some of the power that they took from her. But I'm excited to see her journey, though, of where she goes. And I think it would be dynamic and interesting to see her align more with the Saw Gerrera. But I think Bix's heart, how hard is it hardened, I guess, is probably the question that we'll have to see how that gets answered as we go. I have a feeling it may not go all the way to Saw, but I could definitely see that there will be some conflict along the way, especially with Andor or with Cassian.
Yeah. Another read on this could be that whatever they're going to do, right, the risk is so high that she may not come out of this. And so she's just got that on her shoulders and she's thinking about that, right? You know, whatever the cost may be, the cost being her own life, you know, coming out of this. So that might be.
Well, and then in Cassian's perspective too, you know, he's wanted to protect her at times. Does he not really want her to go through with this? And she's the one with the conviction now of saying, no, look, this is what it takes.
Right,
you need to, yeah, I'm the same, and I have the same level of investment as you do. So don't treat me with kid gloves. We're all doing the same thing. We all have skin in this game. We all need to do our part. And no matter what it takes and what we have to sacrifice, it's, you know, we're on board and we're going to do it.
And we're all here because of what you did. I mean, remember, this all started back on.
Yeah. Don't treat me differently now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the one that got us all outed and exposed. You know, she was already aligning with Luthen previously, right? So,
right.
But, you know, he's the one that kind of crashed it all down around them.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Luthen had a little bit of
a little
bit of
stoking the
influence
flames
there. Yeah,
for sure.
None of these folks are innocent by any stretch.
No, not at all. But this is some kind of a Imperial freighter or something coming in. You've got everybody looking there on the moon. Concerned. I think we get another shot.
Yeah, this is the Empire's first arrival, it would appear.
There's woman Pack, as Skywalker's Academy pointed out in the chat. You get to see him there. All right, and we get this real quick shot here of this kind of mountainous castle. It looks like some kind of a fort or something on the top of a snowy mountain, snow-capped mountain. High, the clouds are here, so this is very, very high. This does look very similar to the building that we see.
Solo, a Star Wars story?
Yeah, it does. No, I don't think it's the same planet, but it does look very similar. I will say that. You're right. I was saying at the very end when the Avenger shoots out of that building, right? We get that one shot. It looks like it's an angle or side of one of these buildings or this building here. So maybe not. But there is an Imperial shuttle there. You can kind of see that little Lambda class shuttle. So I didn't mean to do that. Right. But there's a Lambda class shuttle as well. So definitely Imperial, or at least the Empire is visiting. We've got more, what I'm assuming are some kind of, you know, security patrol unit, not necessarily stormtroopers, but something that belongs to the Empire, riot control, or maybe just the local forces on Gorman, the police forces, local authorities that have come in to kind of help and assist all that. We get Mom Mothma talking to somebody saying, we must stand together. She ends up finishing the sentence a little bit later by saying, or we will be crushed. I'm not sure who she's talking to. I mean, it could be somebody like, you know, I don't know, Luthen. It could be a senator or somebody else that she's aligned with, or someone she's, you know, maybe it's Bail Organa. I don't know. I don't think that would be the case at this point, but she's definitely trying to plead to somebody that they've got to come together.
Yeah, my guess would probably be Luthen, but again, it could be one of her other counterparts too. But
yeah,
but definitely impassioned. I mean, she's starting to feel that desperation, like things are slipping away, and Mon Mothma, without that ability to kind of control and influence like she has on a political front, way outside of her depth here, and you start to feel some of that.
I'm going to move on here. We go to this Imperial building, the Emmy nominated series. This is some kind of, I'm assuming this is an Imperial building. If this shot is a continuation of that shot, but it does look like to be on Coruscant here. Our first look at Krennic.
Yeah, not as happy-go-lucky as he was when we saw him in the teaser or the first look, right?
Yeah, we get that same
Much
look a
more
little bit
intense.
later, but he's really mad here.
Yeah, he's very intense here.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. He says resistance is absurd, which I always think of resistance as futile from Star Trek. So maybe this is our own version of it in Star Wars. We get K2. This is what we talked about. K2 backhanding one of these officers that are kind of half in armor. I'm assuming that's K2. I don't know what other K2 unit would have done that.
Yeah.
Probably a safe assumption. We get Clea now saying it's a weapon. They're building a weapon. So interesting that she got wind of this somehow. She found out that it was, or she's delivering the message to somebody. I don't know if that's Saw Gerrera, maybe that's Andor. It looks like more of a Andor hand, but this is, she's gotten intel that they're building some kind of a massive weapon. And of course, it won't be till later on, not till Rogue One, when they realize what it is. So, it'll be interesting to see what, what they kind of make of that, or what they come up with in their own heads there.
Yeah, and I like that Clea is finally like kind of stripped of all her well put together, self that we see. Like she's got her hair, the hair's kind of falling. She's got it in a bun. And again, you're kind of leaning towards you. This kind of looks like the person we couldn't quite make out before. Although I think in Skywalker Sky, we thought it was Vel in the chat. So it'd be interesting to see what it actually ends up being. But yeah, we start to see even that desperate. She's the one that's usually cool, calm, and collected, right? She's the one admonishing Vel for, violating the communication protocols, and receiving is just as dangerous as sending, and all of that. And then now all of that polish is starting to erode. All of that procedure and following the rules and the guidelines are starting to fall by the wayside whenever they find out that what is actually happening and how dire and serious the situation is. And again, it looks like it may be potentially a darker skinned hand, but the sleeve is interesting. I would love for this to be Saw Gerrera. I don't know what Saw necessarily would do with that, because Saw's been kind of hunting the kyber crystals that we saw in Rebels, of course.
Right.
So he's had an inkling that something is going on. So it would really be fascinating for him to be the first one to hear that and finally put it all together about what's actually going on. What were they actually using for all of this stuff? And have that confirmation finally after years of hunting.
Yep. No, I agree. It's very interesting that she seems to be kind of in, like, I'm not going to say peasant clothing, but definitely looks more like worker clothing. At one point I was thinking maybe she's sitting there on that moon with everybody, like she's there as well in hiding, but it feels like this is probably too early.
I don't think
for her to be talking about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure she would be there either. And again, she might just be missing her shawl, her wrap, and maybe somebody. It does look more kind of basic, standard,
homely.
Yeah. This is a character that I'm really excited to learn more about and see her shine, because I think she was a bit underappreciated in season 1 for some of the things she was doing. She didn't get enough screen time to really bring it forward, but you feel like she's that. We talked about it in season 1. She's kind of that rock for Luthen a lot of time. But we feel that tension between them and that disconnect of what Luthen is doing versus what she believes they should be doing and how they should be operating, and the risks he's taking are unnecessary and reckless.
Yeah.
And to see her journey and where it goes, and to see her kind of control that and assert herself in that way, I'm really excited to see how they position this character. There's so many good characters in the series, first of all, but this is one that I think is just a quiet, amazingly strong character that I hope we get to learn more about and see how she really feels and really interpret her position in all of this and which direction she feels like they should be pushing. Because we didn't really she was very guarded in that way. And I think scenes like this are very promising of where she's going to finally open up and blossom and really put it all out there for us to really consume and see what it really kind of her perspective on the entire thing.
Yeah. All that said too, I like when you talked about Death Wish, when we play that, or Death Watch, I should say. I have her on my short list to not make it out of this series.
Oh, dude, my list is so long. It's not even funny. I mean, it's like practically everybody.
It's everybody. Okay, let's move on to, I think this shot here, which I think we talked about, was likely going to be something that we saw maybe, in the later episode or later, maybe the third grouping of episodes, maybe the fourth grouping, but that is because this looks near completion, right?
Yeah, so this is Krennic standing in a viewport watching the Death Star assembly, and of course we're missing the dish. And again, we get another scene later on where it's still further out, but yeah, this is definitely weeks or months away from Death Star completion that we see in Rogue One. So pretty exciting. We'll see this. I'm excited for the Death Star to, finally
come to
get
life.
A little bit more screen time.
Yeah. We got Saul Guerrero's forces here. Alex messaged me. He's like, "Is that a Wampa?" I was like, "No, that's Gigoran, which was a character introduced in Rogue One." Right. But does kind of look like a Wampa. But you got two tubes there in the background. I'm assuming that's maybe Warwick Davis right there. I forget his character's name.
Right.
But maybe not. Is that? Yeah, it does look like a smaller person. So it's raining. Not sure where they're going. Looks like they're about to head into some kind of a battle. Who knows at this point? But Saw Gerrera's forces, hand sex, and Star Wars is happening right here on the screen, live in front of us.
Very intimate scene here between Bix and Cassian.
Well, and this feels like it's a continuation of that other scene that we were talking about earlier, because it looks like the same window in the background when she says, "I want to win at any cost." And right. So I don't know if this is before or after, and again, going back to if she is going down this darker path of like, hey, I'm starting to lean more towards Saw Gerrera, this might be a way that, maybe this is a moment where Andor finally gets to either intentionally does it or, maybe it just kind of happens, but reconnect with that person that you were talking about, right? The trying to get her to see, look, she's still the same person, even though she's been through some really rough things. So I don't know what's going, I'm not really sure, but we know they had a previous history. We know they had a relationship at some point. Maybe they rekindle this relationship. I think this is going to be a really cool moment, though, to kind of see, especially when you put that up against, like you asked me at the last show, like, what about, how does this relate to the relationship between Andor and Jyn, right? Does he see aspects of her, of Jyn, or I'm sorry, of Bix in Jyn, or vice versa, right? It's, we'll see.
These scenes are going to be important because with as serious and intense as much of this series is probably going to be for season 2, I think having these moments of compassion and passion and getting back to why do they care so much, and it's truly still about the people and the relationships that they're trying to salvage, but also the realism that they can't have these things under the regime that is governing and really controlling everything, the tyranny that's on it. So it's a nice contrast to be able to have moments like this that are very intimate, but also what still needs to be done, and usually intimate moments interrupted, type of thing based on duty and responsibility of what they feel like they need to accomplish.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Jorge says big guy was named Moroff. Yes, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I think I said the race, which is a Gigaron, but it's Moroff is the name of the characters. Thank you for correcting me on that one. I appreciate that. And Stephanie says, of course, heck yeah, hand stuff. So she's always here for the hand stuff.
She is.
All right, let's move on. Oh my goodness, look at her. Look at the fury in this woman's eyes.
Albert, my heart's palpitating just watching it.
But yeah, this is where she says the monster will come for us all. I do wonder if she's talking about Palpatine. Like, wow, what a bold statement to make in the Senate, that to call Palpatine the monster. I hope that is the case, and not our loss of morality is, quote, the monster. I want her like to call out Palpatine in that moment. I think she does. Yeah. What's that?
I'm so excited for the scene.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we got this teased in the interview with Tony Gilroy and Genevieve O'Reilly, and we know the chops that she's been laying down in this reserve, but to see her finally kind of unleash and stop giving a crap and finally just have to lay it out there, like, enough is enough. I've done everything I can, and now it's just time to call a spade, and we just lay it on the line and explode with that passion and that energy, that she's just been, pent up, and all of the personal things that are going on too on the side with her daughter and husband, and all the deals that she's had to make, all the compromises, and some of the questionable things that she's done over the years in order to try to fight the Empire from the inside, and all coming to the forefront here, and to be able to see it on screen, and such an amazing actress to be able to do this. I got chills when this came on. I was like, man, heck yeah, let's do this, girl. I'm on board.
And I almost fear for her, like her life, right? Like
Yeah.
she's going to say all this, and then she's going to have to leave the Senate building with Imperial forces everywhere. So what does that look like? You know what I
If
mean?
only there were a crew that could save her, Albert.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm with you. I mean, you got to be able to get out of this mess that you've now kind of put yourself in, knowing that the security forces are going to deploy pretty quickly, for outright speaking. And again, this all leads us to why, one of the reasons why Palpatine's going to disband the Senate. Like, you can't have this kind of nonsense and these people that can't be controlled. So once you no longer require it and it's kind of served its purpose, let's just get away with this thing.
Okay. So here's the scene that had everybody talking. I don't think this is force choke.
Her eyes get really big. I think that's the one thing. But you think this is more of like a panic attack?
Yeah. Anxiety, panic. Like it's just, I don't know. Like it doesn't, she's moving too much.
Yeah.
Usually when people get force choke, they stop. They can't breathe. They're clutching their throats. But I mean, her eyes are moving around. She's looking off to the left there. She's pulling at it. Yeah, I'm not convinced that it's, and plus I don't think we would have Vader. I just don't, I mean, like, yeah, awesome. I love Vader and I love Palpatine, but the idea that they would be here and choking her or doing something, I just doesn't add up to me.
Well, and it takes away, I think, with his participation in Rogue One. And I don't think Tony Gilroy would necessarily go that route. I mean, does it make sense for him
he also said, Tony Gilroy said in the interview, there were no big cameos.
Right, yeah.
So,
I mean, and there's that. I mean, again, for those that might want to believe it, it would make sense if Vader was in the vicinity, right, or had some idea what was going on, but that he's going to go and start targeting individuals seems pretty light. And again, I think it would just detract too much from Rogue One anyway.
mm-hmm.
And they may have talked about it, but I think it probably came back to that of why would we sacrifice what was so powerful about the movie? And this is where it's really important to have the creator there with you along the way, with Tony, and be able to say, like, this does not make sense, right? And yeah, we'll tease it out, but if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, it does look like she's choking, but again, like you said, when you're having a panic attack, when you're having a severe anxiety attack or something's going on, and everything is constricting around you, nothing feels like you just can't get enough space. The walls feel like they're closing in, that claustrophobic type of feeling. And just anybody's experienced that can probably equate to what we're seeing on screen. So it's more about like, what's the scenario, right? Is it the massacre? Is this a crisis of conscience, or is it she's being hunted and stalked because of the masses of people have found a way and they're hunting her? What's the scenario? We're not quite sure at this point, and it's really difficult to tell with this room. It almost seems like kind of like an interrogation type of room, but it's really difficult to tell what kind of space this is.
Yeah, it's very tiny that she seems to be in. I mean, just based on those two walls right there, either that or it's a hallway. But I mean, she's at the end of a hallway because in the background you can see what look to be some kind of like monitors and control panels. So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point though. Like, what if this truly is a panic attack? What is it that led her to that? I mean, going back to, I guess my theory or headcanon with her potentially feeling like, hey, the Empire isn't who they said they were, or they become something more that I just can't align myself with. Maybe it is the killing of innocent people, right? So far, everything has been done in, within the jurisdiction of what law and order means, but something like the massacre where they went too far, maybe that's weighing on her shoulders. Or it could be some other monumental event that's happened, right? Or the accumulation of these that has finally gotten her to the point where she feels like, I don't know where I've gone. Now I'm, part of all of this and I can't get out. And, like you said, the walls are closing in on me.
And we know from the original trilogy, we have defectors from the Empire, right? So that we would see one here. We know we have a mole already on the inside. I can't remember the character's name, but the one that was talking to Luthen and reporting back to him, that was sitting in the council with Dedra Meero.
Oh, yeah, from the same board, yeah.
Right, but that she would somehow maybe get linked up with that or start to look for a way out. We know other Imperial officers were in the same position and knew they were on the wrong side. So what was the moment? What was the reasoning why they made that leap? it would be kind of interesting to be able to see that on screen, especially in contrast with what we see with Cyril Karn, who seems to be very much entrenched with the Imperial ways, has a vendetta against Cassian Andor in particular. So he seems pretty stalwart, not going to move off his line. But does Deidre Miro start to venture off of that with what she's seeing? That could be an interesting perspective to be able to bring to the forefront, kind of like what we saw with Agent Callus in Rebels, right? Of that journey from hardcore Imperial to Imperial turncoat. Is that something we might see here? With the way the character is presented in season 1, they'd have a bit of a journey to get there for her, but there are paths to be able to do it at the very least.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Steph says, why would they hint at a force choke but not mean it? Yeah, because it gets people talking.
Well, and again, this series doesn't play by the same rules necessarily as what the other series in Star Wars do. Tony Gilroy's a little sneakier, like in the best kind of way. When they kind of tell you something or show you something, he doesn't always spell it out so literally, I think. So it's one of those things that it just doesn't quite play by the same set of rules. And thank you, Imperial Activity and Skywalker's Academy. Lonnie Zhang is the character that we see reporting into Luthen. Yeah, Lonnie.
Oh, right, yeah. Skywalker's Academy also says peanut allergies. Maybe that's what's going on.
That's very real. That's very real.
Well, thankfully, if you see, yeah, I mean, if you see here, she has 2 EpiPens that you can see, so she's probably okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da!
Mid-drink there. That was funny.
Yeah, I'll be here all week. All right, let's move on. This is another shot that I think we saw in some of the other trailers. It might have been the Celebration trailer, but it looks like
a rainstorm.
Yeah, there's a rainstorm. It looks like the city. They're in tunnels. You've got Andor there on the left-hand side. I know it's kind of hard to see. And someone else has got a flashlight or a torch. What do they call those in Star Wars now? I forgot.
I don't know. Probably a torch.
Yeah, but looking down I don't know. Maybe this is escape tunnels or part of whatever it is. And this feels like that same scene that we saw Vel.
Oh, Vel.
Earlier on, where they were both standing there in the rain. Luthen's like all dressed up and all prettied up. He's looking at himself in the mirror. This looks like the same look he's got. I don't know if we've already shown it. Maybe it's a little bit later, but it looks like he's heading out to Gorman as well to be a part of all that. He's wearing the same exact attire. So, this is where he's probably psyching himself up. I thought that was Willimon, but maybe it's not Willimon Pock. But this looks like at the massacre, though, because you can see that structure in the background.
Right.
That's kind of that centerpiece where all the people have kind of gathered in. So this is kind of some action that's happening there while the Imperial forces are taking their shots on them. Saw Gerrera, by the way, I forgot to mention, he says, revolution is not the same. Then he continues on here with, you're right here. You're ready to fight.
Not for the sane, right?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. My apologies. Revolution is not for the sane. Shaking this poor person.
That kind of tracks if you've read Mask of Fear, is he's definitely kind of losing it.
Yep. This scene we saw in the teaser, it's some kind of explosion, and everybody kind of blows back. I don't know if it doesn't look like it looks like a sonic, like some kind of a sonic weapon almost.
Yeah, some sort of concussive type of device. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we go on to Bix fighting for her life. Looks like she's got some Imperial agents kind of trying to pull her in. She gets the better of him right there, whacks him on the head with something. So, I don't know, man. This poor lady's been through a lot already, and the fact that she's got more officers attacking her. I assume this is right after they've maybe captured them on that moon, and she's being interrogated again or whatever. But
yeah, it might be. She's not going back to that life.
No, she's had enough of that.
Yeah, and again, they told us in the interview that we're going to expect a different Bix, right? This is not going to be the hurt and broken person that we saw at the end of season 1. So get ready for it, folks. It's gonna be a fun one.
This is Krennic saying that there's a future. Or I'm sorry, we see Krennic right before this, though. We hear Cyril Karn saying there's a future here. Krennic looks happy with what he's seeing. You can see him smirking there. And then we get to see part of the wedding that was confirmed. Maybe not so many words, but it was confirmed in the interview that they would.
Now we're definitely seeing it because you got a white dress and you see Mon Mothma there parading around.
Yeah. So
Presumably that's Perrin in the blue as well. Behind her.
that would be Lita right there, I guess, with her back to us.
Right.
More people chanting there on Gorman. You can see the Dharma Initiative logo there on the left-hand side from Lost. Oops, sorry. This is where Cyril finishes that quote. He says, "There's a future here for those who dare."
Don't understand the context of that statement though.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like, in some ways, definitely the workplace. You can see the background. This is where he went to go work. And I forget now what he was doing, but it was kind of like mundane in terms of what he was doing, right? But I do wonder how much, because we said it during season 1 earlier on, we were breaking down those episodes. We were like, wow, this guy would be like, he would make a great imperial officer or a good candidate for somebody to be part of the Empire. And then he kind of went down this path of, bucking up against the Empire and getting on their bad side. And now he's got an opportunity here to kind of remake a name for himself, if you will, in the Empire. I don't know. Maybe he's been drinking so much of this now that he's just like, hey, this is really, there's a lot of potential here, especially where the Empire is given. Maybe he's gone too far over. And now he's, a corporate company kind of man. And so maybe he's speaking about that. I don't think he's talking about his job specifically. I think he's talking about the Empire and given the circumstances that they're in now and the galactic power that they have.
Yeah, he's definitely an Imperial tool through and through.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't understand the sequence here. So.
But yeah, you've got Andor looking behind him. Looks very scared, very windy. So either he's on a cliff, maybe on a beach. I don't know, atop of a ship. I don't know, Chicago. But he almost looks like he's gonna jump.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of looking back at something, a little bit tired looking, a little bit worn.
Yeah.
So clearly running from something, probably.
Yep. We're coming to the very end here, and I think we kind of go into rapid fire with some of these shots. We got more stormtroopers running in here. This is all part of that same. I assume this looks more like.
It's like the interior of the buildings where they're doing the protests and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking, well, maybe this is Coruscant, and they're after Mon Mothma trying to get away. I don't know. Yeah, it looks more like Gorman, but all right, we'll see. There's Luthen coming down the steps here.
Yeah, giving some of the old stink eye.
Yeah, we're in the same garb. This scene is one that confuses me, because that looks like Cyril Karn from the back to me.
Maybe, yeah.
And then you've got all the K2 droids there. So maybe he's moved up in the ranks if that's the case. And now they've got him doing something with the K2 units. I don't know. I assume one of these is probably K2SO. Maybe this is before, K2 churns or something.
Yeah, maybe so.
But we get no dialogue here. Just a shot of all these units. You got this guy doing some kind of like salute. I don't know. He's slapping his forearm. Maybe that's like the early rebellion salute that they use to kind of acknowledge each other. I don't know.
Maybe it's the secret handshake.
Yeah, a secret handshake of sorts. Or then maybe that's a very vulgar gesture.
It's the equivalent of the middle finger in Star Wars.
It's the middle finger or the, up yours, buddy.
Right.
Who knows? There's Mon Mothma throwing her hands up in the air at the wedding. We've got Major Partagaz there. Good to see him. This one's kind of literally sad. You've got Clea wearing an interesting outfit. First off, this yellow and white. She's crying. So I don't know, man. Luthen dying?
Maybe, or maybe her end is about to happen too. There's a very
maybe she is going to die.
Very bright light that's washed out everything behind her. So the only thing in focus is her and this tear dripping down her cheek. Yeah. So yeah, it could be Luthen dying. It could be her end on the way, or things have just finally overwhelmed her. But it seems like probably one of the first two is probably the most likely.
Yep. All right, so here's the blast that we were talking about on this planet. These guys look like rebellion forces, just, I don't know, based on their dress.
Yeah, Ragtag Rebellion. They kind of look like they could be part of Saw's crew as well in this kind of jungle type of planet.
Yeah. I said that looked like an Avenger. Now I'm looking at it. It doesn't really look like a TIE Avenger wing or something, or maybe a part of it.
Yeah, I can't really tell what that structure is on the left.
Looks like it could even have a cannon or something on there. But that, so, at some point.
Oh,
right?
it does kind of look like the TIE Avengers wings a little bit, potentially. Maybe.
So then what if he crash lands? I'm assuming that maybe he lands on this planet for whatever reason. And you've got these guys here, but if you look, they're almost, it looks like he's got his hand behind his back there.
I think they're helping him. I don't know that they're hauling him around. I think they might be helping him. Oh no, you're right. His hands are secured behind his back. I finally saw it there.
Yeah, let me go.
Like
Sorry, I was
his
going
hands
the
do
wrong way.
like they're like tied behind his back in a cuffed fashion. Yeah, you might be right. You know what though? I mean, this might be Saw. I mean, this could be Andor coming into contact with Saw and company.
Maybe.
It would make sense with the way. I mean, these guys are dressed in kind of guerrilla type of attire and very ragtag, and
he lands on the planet in a TIE Avenger.
Right, and maybe it was designed that way, but they don't know him. And even if Luthen's kind of vouched for him, it's the first contact, and we know that Saw's paranoid and not always going to give anybody the benefit of the doubt. So we bring him in and interrogate them, and then we'll just let it all sort itself out. So yeah, it kind of feels like maybe this is Andor's contact with Saw and company.
But then he would have recognized him in Rogue One, though, right?
Maybe he's just as guerrillas then.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're kind of drawing things from literally half a second of a screen here of a video here, but yeah, something like that. But again, someone's shooting at him though. So who's shooting at him and where they're running from? We don't have a good idea of that yet.
You can see it there.
Yep.
There was a crazy wild theory too that maybe he was back at his home planet. I already forgot the name of the planet, but it's just hard to get there. Why he would go there? Yeah,
Canary, I think.
Canary, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any reason. And there's other storylines. We'll talk about these as we get maybe to the final hype. But there's storylines out there that are we going to come back and revisit any of them? So it's a good question.
Yeah, Imperial Activity says looks like to me the cast is wearing the Imperial test pilot flight suit. He's definitely wearing it.
Yeah.
So I assume this is him coming in. Like the TIE Avenger has to be somewhere around here, which I assume was that thing, but maybe not. Maybe. And then Skywalker says right, not the first contact with him and Saw Gerrera, but yeah, it'd be hard to. There's a part of me that wants to go back to that storyline because I thought it was very powerful, and there's the whole sister connection that was just kind of dropped, and maybe this is an opportunity to kind of close that loop, but. I don't know, man, with, 4 years condensed into 3 episodes each, I don't know that you've got a lot of time there to kind of really get into that story. So it almost feels very forced if he definitely takes the ship and lands there specifically. Feels like we're just going there for the sake of coming back to that thread.
Right.
Which I'm probably not a huge fan of if that's the case. And then it ends with with Andor saying, "Welcome to the rebellion," and him blasting through the side of this building here, or it looks like that actually looks like a what do you call it? Not a blast door, but the door to the hangar
like
bay door, right? So either that TIE Avenger has got some serious armor plating, which I don't think is the case. I did think, if you look at the metal, it almost looks kind of heated up, and I wonder if he maybe spins it around, fires up the jets, heats that up, and then spins it back around and kind of blows through it or something.
You are overthinking it. He's just blasting his way out, man.
I don't think you could do that, though, with a ship.
It's Star Wars. They can do whatever they want.
I know. It would be the first time we've ever seen something like that. Like, usually when these things hit other metal, it's like massive explosion. They always blow up on impact.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
It almost looks like it looks like it's falling. Like it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like it shoots out and then it starts coming down, like descending, like almost like he's taking it, like, firing a little wheelie or something.
Yeah, you hit a ramp and he's got to come back down the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's where it ends there. Flies out and then he floors it. You can see him kind of hitting it full throttle.
Guns it. I'm excited about this sequence. I think it's gonna be really cool. I'm really hoping it's got a unique sound too. I think that would be neat to have. And you still get that Thai type of traditional, historic, classical sound, but something unique on top of it for this prototype model.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ship design. I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it really does. All right, Andor streaming April 22nd.
I'm excited, man. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, it's getting me amped up. This is really good stuff.
Yeah, great trailer. I really, when you couple that with everything else, it really does kind of tell a bigger picture. And I think the part I'm more excited about is that I don't know that we've seen a lot from that for that last three, those last 3 episodes. So that's, going to be very cool to finally get to see where all that goes. But
yeah, how it all fits is going to be an interesting look back as we go through the season and seeing how much of the trailer. And I don't know if we'll have time to do this. I mean, in the past, we've done one of those shows like on Patreon where what haven't we seen from the trailer? And
right.
When we're doing a movie a week for 4 weeks, I don't know if we're going to be able to have that kind of time to be able to do it, but it'll be interesting to kind of keep track of that as we go. And maybe as a recap before we end that third year or the year before Rogue One, basically, how far along are we? Is there anything we haven't quite seen yet? But that'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yep. All right. Well, that's the show. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thanks everyone coming on the live stream tonight. Alex, thanks for signing up for the membership. Imperial Activity, 1 Up versus CPU. Jorge, Skywalker's Academy, Steph, Boring Dad, Sleep Stories. Well, we saw you out there. Appreciate you coming in. He I don't know if you saw the comment. He kept us muted and didn't look at the chat because he wants to go in so spoiler free. So
no,
but thanks for coming out and at least liking the show and leaving us a comment. And of course, my Star Wars guys, thank you for showing up as well. Everybody in the background, we see you and appreciate you coming out and saying hi. We hope you'll join the chat next time. Again, if you're interested in getting a little badge next to your name and supporting the channel, please check out that membership at the join. It's about $1. So thanks always. And all of our Patreon members as well. We appreciate you guys continue to support us.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Patreon members and everybody again, like Jonesy said, that joined us for the live stream tonight. We'll have another show this weekend for Patreon members exclusively. And we'll do this all over again next Wednesday. And we're less than 30 days away from the premiere of this. So we've still got to figure out what in the world we're going to do as far as coverage, but we'll figure out something. It may just be a longer show that we do on, Tuesday or Wednesday night, whenever it is we bring this. So yeah, bring your pillows and
calling in sick on every Thursday for the next month. Right.
Yeah. But we'll get it covered one way or the other. It just might be a longer show. So,
that's right.
All right, Jonesy, any final words before we jump out of here?
No, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you guys on the next episode.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.